The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike three. Wrap this one up in green and white.
Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to another edition of the RailCats Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savedich, and I probably have more than 30 minutes worth of content that I'm going to put out just because the RailCats at the end of January had a signing day for the ages. But before I get into all of the players that are on the move, I kind of broke down the players. I'll kind of explain a little bit. But on Monday, I had the opportunity to work with Rob and Kevin, who run this week in the American Association podcast. They actually had me on for an interview talking about the podcast. So I'm hoping that's going to come out sometime, either that I posted this. I'm recording this on Thursday, so it'll be coming out on Friday, either on Friday or sometime next week. Like I said, it was fun. I was very nervous, so I probably kind of sound a bit different as far as maybe more talkative to a certain standpoint. I mean, I had a lot of fun talking about the RailCats, and then we kind of got a bit of a hockey talk because they also have a website, the minorleaguereporting.com, where they cover a lot of various minor. I'm talking anywhere from the American Association. I'm pretty sure they got a couple Pioneer Leagues on there. They have the AHL, which is the American Hockey League, the ECHL, which is the East Coast Hockey League. They have a bunch of minor league reporting on there. They've done a fantastic job. I was going to say fabulous job, but it was kind of weird. Anyways, a fantastic job on that aspect of it. They had Greg Taggart on there, his decision to go to Winnipeg, that kind of stuff. So they have a bunch of stuff on there that kind of keeps you in the loop. So I was actually surprised that they reached out to me. I just retweeted them talking about the RailCats and their seasons, and I got a message the next day saying, "Hey, you want to do this?" And it was kind of weird because it was in the middle of a crazy time because the RailCats were signing everyone except I think one person who we're still waiting to hear from. I don't know what's going on with that. I'll get into that in a minute. I think most of you guys know where this is kind of going, who I'm talking about in that aspect of it. But I was gone with my wife's side of the family all weekend, so I was spending time with them, but then trying to go back and forth and trying to get all of this all together, that kind of stuff. So it was a very interesting time for the RailCats. They had their national signing day. It was almost like college athletics have, football, whatever, their national signing day where everyone's just signing where they're going. So it was a fun time. So be sure I'll be sure to retweet and send links and all that to the podcast with this week in the American Association with Rob and Kevin. Great guys, fun time. So when that comes out, I'll be sure to send that all over so everyone can get a chance to listen to it and kind of piggyback off some of the thoughts that I had in that podcast. I won't spoil it too much. I probably made myself sound like a fool a couple times, but you know what? It's the first time ever being interviewed like that, so I was a little bit nervous. It was pretty close to about an hour conversation, so I had a lot of fun doing that. But anyways, let us go ahead and get into what we all here for is the National Signing Day. But before we get into that, on January 20th, the RailCats traded left-handed pitcher Jalen Smith to Grand Junction of the Pioneer League for a player to be named later. I'm not really sure how. I think in the long grand scheme of things, I think that it's nice to make that move. I'll get into Jalen's statistics here. So, I mean, it really wasn't, we're getting a future consideration asset for someone that really only played in 6 games. So I think in the long run of things, I think down the road, if there is a missing link or missing hole in this team, that they're able to grab someone, hopefully, from Grand Junction and kind of make it a little bit better down the road in that aspect of it. But anyways, let's just go ahead and give Jalen Smith his spotlight time. He only played with 6 games, like I said. He signed with the RailCats the 6th of August, where that night he pitched. I know I'm going to say this a lot I know sometimes the league doesn't push out exactly when they sign. There's a couple players that signed the day after, but they played the day before. These players could have been with the team, traveling, whatever. They could have signed 3 days prior to get to Gary, or wherever they were playing. So don't shoot the messenger on that one. You can all read up on it the same way I did. I don't know the official day that they signed. I don't know when they officially arrived with the team. But anyways, he pitched that night. Um, he didn't affect anything, but they did lose to Sioux Falls. He pitched the ninth, gave up 4 hits, 3 runs. So he was just kind of in there to pitch the rest of the game out. He had only one other game where he gave up 4 runs, and that was a 13-2 loss against Cleburne. He only pitched a third of an inning, but his best game came against the Milwaukee Milkmen. He pitched in 1 inning, didn't give up a single hit, single run, anything like that. But this is what his stat line looked overall. He played in 6 games, pitched 5 2/3 inning, an ERA of 14.29, gave up 13 hits, 9 runs, all earned, 5 walks, 6 strikeouts. Like I said, in all reality, he had 2 bad games. But when you look at his stats, you look at the games, when it came down to him being put in that position, that wasn't a game that was already decided. He pitched to his potential. So it was a small sample size, but it's one of those that, with everyone that has been re-signed, you can kind of see why that movement was kind of made already. And you're getting a future asset. I said prospect. We'll call it a prospect because, it's a future consideration. So we'll just call it a prospect. It's just easier. It rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. So in that sense. So, like I said, a small sample size for him. Best of luck to Jalen. Going on to the National Signing Day, the RailCat on January 27th signed almost everyone. 3 people were missing, then the 2 people signed 3 days later, and then we were just missing 1 person. But anyways, we will get into the players that signed on the 27th. Sam Abbott, LG Castillo, Edward Cuello, Jack Eisenbarger, Chris Irwin, Harrison Francis, Sherman Graves, Thomas Greeley, Daniel Ngual, Lester Madden, Easton Medea. I'm gonna butcher his name until I hear it again. Aaron Phillips, Jared Price, Rayson Santos, John Cheeks, and Michael Woodworth. And then on January 30th, the RailCats re-signed Victor Nova and Julio Vivas. So, the only person that we're missing out of that one is Adam Heidenfelder, which I'm confused. I don't know if it just hasn't come out yet or if he's just kind of on the fence, because he has liked a handful of my tweets. He's very active in tweeting out, players that are with the RailCats that just resigned. So I'm not sure what's going on with that one. If he's potentially holding out for a bigger league contract or whatever the case may be. So I'm not sure if he just kind of wants to wait, until the time, starts to be crunched. So that's the only person I believe that we're technically missing out of everyone that offered to be resigned. Obviously, Jalen Smith was offered to be resigned, and then he was traded. Anyways, but let's just go ahead and get into the long portion of the. I'm going to talk about every player that has resigned, where they came from, if they either got drafted or was a free agent signing, and then I'm kind of cutting out the middle piece of where they were before they came with the RailCats, and then just to the point they signed. Obviously, there's a handful of veterans on the team that have been with the team more than 3 years, so it's just a matter of them being signed and then their career stats with the RailCats, that kind of deal. So the players that were just this year will only get this year's stats, and the people that have been here for more than a year will get the overall stats. And then the players that have been with the team that just came in this year, I'll have their first game that they played and then their entire career stats. It'll make sense. So starting off with the RailCats 2022 season home run leader and now holds the franchise record for most home runs in a single season at 20, 460 Sammy. Sam Abbott, who was drafted by the White Sox in 2017 in the 8th round, he signed with the RailCats the 26th of May, where in his first American Association swing, he hit a moonshot, which helped the RailCats beat the Kansas City Monarchs 4-3. What a crazy time for him. Coming in and not necessarily, he just brought a different pop and what Lamar Rogers was looking for, and this just hit it right on the head. The more that we're gonna talk about him, the more the players that are kind of resemble what you're seeing from him in the aspect of the power portion of it. But in his 2022 season, he played 68 games, had 238 at bats, scoring 38 runs, 52 hits, 11 doubles, 1 triple, 20 home runs. He had 46 RBIs, 22 walks, and struck out 120 times. His batting average was .219. His on-base percentage of .305. Slugging, 0.5525. His OPS was .830. He had a fielding percentage of .985 with 6 errors with a 408 chances. I like to kind of throw that in there just because you kind of get the feel of the fielding aspect of it. I think the biggest thing why Sam was in and out of the lineup a lot of times was because of his batting average. He was either hit a home run or strike out, and he was kind of in that realm of it. You look at his RBIs, and almost not a little bit under half were part of the home run. So he drove himself in 20 times, obviously. So is half of his stats. I would say even more than half of, because he had a couple grand slams, a couple more than that. So more of his RBIs came from the portion of him hitting home runs. Getting into LG Castillo, a right-handed outfielder drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in 2017. In the 7th round, he was signed by the RailCats on July 14th of 2022. In his first game he played against Winnipeg, he went 2 for 5 scoring a run, striking out 2 times. His stat lines in 2022 kind of went like this. He played in 47 games. He had 192 at-bats, 31 runs, 61 hits, 13 doubles, 2 triples, and 7 home runs. He had 37 RBIs, stole 3 bases, and walked 14 times. He had a batting average of 318, an on-base percentage of .367, slugging of .516. I got the numbers mixed up. His on-base percentage was .367. His OPS was .516. His slugging was .882. His fielding was .978, but that was only 2 errors on 90 chances. I know when he came in, he was kind of came in a little bit later, and the times he was put on the field, he kind of made a handful of mistakes that were magnified. But just now looking at his stat, .978 is not where you want to be. Obviously you want to be more in the 990s than anything. So I would say anything in the 980s is mediocre. Anything below that is below average. But yet again, it's only 90 chances throughout, a shortened season for him. He ended up being one of the better batters at the end of the season for the RailCats. So I'm excited for him to come back and see his power in the lineup and his consistency in his batting. And as I was thinking about it, there's 2 players that haven't signed yet. That was Adam Heidenfeller and Jesus Mariaga. I keep forgetting about Jesus for some odd reason. I just think because I don't see his name that often, that kind of slipped through my mind. Which was a huge part of the RailCats last year. I don't know if it's because he had the issues with the visa, but I'm pretty sure he's playing in some winter ball leagues. So we'll keep a tab on that one. Then going into Edward Cuello, who I had a lot of hope for this year, especially coming out of spring training a week. But then he ended up getting into that a little bit. But he's a right-handed pitcher. He was signed by the LA Dodgers in 2016 as a free agent. Signed with the RailCats on April 11th. So he was with the team at the beginning of the year. His first game was against the Chicago Dogs, where he pitched 5 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 runs, both earned, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He also got the start and won. Then in his next game, May 20th, which was the RailCats' first home game, I happened to be there for that game, and I remember telling I said, this guy's going to be good. But then he gave up 5 runs on 3 hits in 2/3 innings, and later find out that he was injured with an arm injury, and he wouldn't pitch again until July 20th. So in his little shortened kind of season, I mean, he missed basically 2 months of the, he missed more than half the year, obviously. So his stat lines for 2022 were 11 games played at all starting role. He had a record of 3-6, had an ERA of 8.94, pitched in 46.1 innings, gave up 70 hits, 50 runs, 46 which were earned, gave up 10 home runs, struck out 43, walked 12. He had a whip of 1.770, hits per 9 13.6, home runs per 9 1.9, walks per 9 2.3, strikeouts per 9 of 8.4. I think he had a handful of bad games that kind of inflated the numbers. Obviously, pitching 2/3 innings, obviously, and you give up the 5 runs really inflates the numbers, and sometimes it's hard to get them to come down, which is always the odd thing. You make a mistake and the numbers get magnified, and then you do consistently really well for the handful of games, and numbers seem to hardly ever go down on that aspect of it. So I'm hoping with him hopefully not being injured again, he gets back in the groove of things, and he has some speed, he has some nastiness to him. So I'm hoping him to come back out and be part of the dominant pitching staff that the RailCats have put together, starting pitching wise. Then Jack Eisenbarger, he re-signed as well, left-handed pitcher, now going into his 3rd year with the RailCats, but his 2nd full season. A handful of these 2 season veterans going into their 3rd. They only played like half the year their 1st year, or a handful of games before. So just kind of keep that one in mind. If the numbers don't seem to be calculating up in your head when I'm rattling off these numbers, I didn't really give a full, not everyone. I say, well, they only played a handful of games here, a handful of games there. So getting into what I was talking about. This is his 2nd full year. He only played in 7 games in 2021. This is what he has done over the span of those 2 years. He played in 42 games, starting in 5. His record is 3-8, an ERA of 5.1. His runs per 9 is 6. He pitched 90 innings, given up 83 hits. I threw. Where did I say? I threw something up somewhere. This took me all week to do. The whole week was spanned up with this. And I'm pretty sure when I was writing this stuff down, I was kind of getting tired. There we go. Okay, I got it now. He gave up 83 hits, 60 runs, 50 which were earned. He gave up 6 home runs, walked 56, struck out 112. He has a whip of 1.544, hits per 9, 8.3, home runs per 9, 0.6, walks per 9, 5.6, strikeouts per 9, 11.2. Now, with him being more of a relief pitcher, those numbers are going to be inflated no matter what you do, just because you're not pitching a starting pitching role, so you're not accumulating those innings. So the numbers are always inflated, but the impressive part of it is in his career so far, he has a 5.1 ERA, and that's, good for a reliever is what I'm catching on in the American Association, is in that 5 range. Your starting pitching should be around the 3.5 for an elite pitcher. So starting pit, or at least in a relief role, I think that's a really good number to be at. That's consistent level, and he was pretty consistent last year as it was. I know he got kind of thrown around between a closer and just a middle reliever. Guy just come in and kind of shut down the game a little bit. So I'm happy to see him back as well. Chris Irwin, left-handed pitcher, going on his third season as well. Unlike Eisenbarger, Chris had two full seasons with the RailCats. I said most of them, and he ended up having 2 full seasons. But looking at his stats here, 34 games played, starting in 24 of them. He has a record of 6-10, an ERA of 3.55, runs against average per 9 of 3.97. He has 2 saves while pitching in 135.1 innings. He given up 117 hits, 62 runs, 55 which were earned, 16 home runs, walked 64 while striking out 130. His whip is 1.295, hits per 9 7.4, home runs per 9 1.1, walks per 9 was 4.2, strikeouts per 9 8.4. Which, going back and really looking at Chris Irwin, I guess I never really gave him his due over the last year. Just looking at his career stats, what kind of player, starting pitching or relief pitching, I mean, is a 3.5 with the range I was just talking about. You look at the record, he's only 6-10. But, you're only giving up just under 4 runs a game, which is pretty, that's in the American Association and what you're looking at. That's kind of where you want to be at. A couple relief roles, so maybe the couple bad games there in the relief role that kind of inflates the number a little bit. But he kind of falls in that realm of what Lamar Rogers is looking for. I mean, there's only been 10 games that he hasn't started in, but he could probably go in between both. So looking at his numbers, I think he kind of got overshadowed a little bit by your flame-throwing, nasty pitching Harrison Francis, who I'm going to talk about next. Your stud, your bull, and Adam Heidenfelder. Carlos Vega was really good when he was here. Nick Garcia, all-star, kind of tapered off at the end of last year. But you kind of get that he got overlooked a little bit. So I'm excited for him to go in his 3rd full season and be that. He's going to be there. He may not be like there in your face, but he's going to be there. Just being under the weeds and just being productive for the RailCats, which is never a bad thing. Just have that guy that's going to kind of be in the grass there and be productive. Going into Harrison Francis, right-handed pitcher who led the RailCats in strikeouts last year at 95, was an all-star. He was drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the 4th round in 2017. He signed last year with the RailCats on March 21st. His first game was May 14th. He came in as a reliever against the Chicago Dogs. He pitched in 4 innings, gave up 3 hits, all earned. Also giving up 3 hits while striking out 6. Looking at his stats here, he pitched in 20 games, starting 18 of them. He had a record of 5-8, an ERA of 5.29. Runs against per 9 was 6.04. Innings pitched 95.1, giving up 110 hits, 64 runs, 56 which were earned. Gave up 10 home runs, walked 48. He had 95 strikeouts, which led the RailCats. He had a whip of 1.657, hits per 9 of 10.4, home runs per 9 of 0.9, walks per 9 4.5, and strikeouts per 9 of 9. So I see he was an all-star. I think beginning of the year he had a little bit of control issue. It really wasn't so much that he was necessary. I mean, he gave him 110 hits, but I don't think a lot of like where his runs kind of came from was like the walks, and then he would give up a home run here or there, and it kind of inflated the numbers. I think his control ended up becoming a lot better. He was, I know it's kind of weird to say, but he was kind of one of those, he's going to give up a hit, or he's going to walk the person, he's going to strike him out. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not a pitch to contact pitcher, so sometimes he'll get the ball into play, but that's just kind of how it's going to go. Is more of a less, was he going to walk strike out the guy, and I think later on in the season, as the season progressed on, he got better in that control aspect of it. So I'm excited to see him in his second year and what he might be able to potentially do, being in that starting role a little bit more, probably starting in all the games, maybe throwing a couple of relief appearances in there. But I'll be interested to see in that one. And a player that I'm kind of excited about. He kind of came with the RailCats a little bit late, but it's Sherman Graves, who started the season in 2022 with the Lincoln Salt Dogs. He was released on June 3rd. With Lincoln, he played 10 games. He had 39 at bats, scored 2 runs, 10 hits, 2 doubles, 6 RBIs, had a batting average of 256. His on base percentage was 275, slugging was 308, and then his OPS was 583. His fielding percentage was 1,000 on 25 chances, 25 chances. He later signed with the RailCats on July 25th. He played in his first game on July 28th, where he went over 3 with a K. But on August 1st through the 3rd, he just was like, you know what? I'm going to Lincoln. I'm going back to the team that released me, and I'm just gonna blow him away. He went 6 for 13, a batting average of 461. He had 2 doubles, 1 home run, 6 RBIs in 3 games. His stats with the RailCats for going back to that series, it was just crazy because it was just like it was the Sherman Graves kind of show, and I'm pretty sure they swept Lincoln that series, and it was just one of those like, well, what's he gonna do next? And the team was kind of clicking on cylinders, so it was a fun little series to have. But going into his stats here with the Cats. He played 16 games, 55 at bats, scored 4 runs, 14 hits, 4 doubles, 2 home runs, 14 RBIs, walked 5 times, struck out 18. He had a batting average of 255, slugging of 328, OPS of 436, slugging of 438 and OPS of 764. His fielding percentage dropped down to a 988 on 84 chances with 1 error. One error, you kind of looking at you look at the chances versus 1 error. People are going to make mistakes. Going on to Thomas Greeley, who I think is the ideal catcher for Lamar Rogers, who is someone who can play defensively and can hit the ball. And I think Thomas Greeley puts that together. So I'm just interested to see, they're going to need another catcher. So I wonder who they're going to sign and what kind of catcher he's going to be. But looking at it, on July 14th, he played in his first game on July 17th against Winnipeg. He went 1 for 2 with an RBI. His stats with the RailCats were 24 games played, 76 at bats, 9 runs, 18 hits, 3 doubles, 2 RBIs, 1 stolen base, and got caught stealing once, walked 10 times while striking out 21. He had a batting average of 237 and on base percentage of .330, slugging of .276. His OPS was .06, 606. Fielding was .990 on 196 chances with 2 errors. I think they were throwing errors, which I'm pretty sure I argued in a podcast, which really shouldn't have been on him, but they were. But getting down to our All-Star, another All-Star, and the Rookie Position Player of the Year, which someone's like, hold up, it's his 3rd year in the league. It's going into his 3rd year in the league. With the American Association, they claim 3 years as a rookie. Doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. So that's why he won Rookie Position of the Year. But I'm talking about, obviously, Daniel Langlois, who was Mr. Offense at the beginning of the year. He kind of slowed down a little bit as the season kind of progressed, and then he kind of flattened out and was even. But I think a lot of times the offense was driven through him and Michael Woodworth, who I'll get into in a minute. So I'm excited to see him back at short. I'm hoping he'll be able to clean up the errors a little bit. I'll kind of get down into his statistics here. But over the past 2 years, he played in 185 games, 671 at bats, scored 94 runs with 185 hits, 39 doubles, 11 triples, and 9 home runs, 90 RBIs, stole 42 times, got caught stealing 13, walked 87 times, and struck out 184. His batting average is 276, on base percentage of 365, slugging of 407, OPS of 772. His fielding percentage is 988 on 574 chances, 13 errors, and 13 of them came in last year. So I'm hoping he will be able to clean those numbers up and be that reliable shortstop that we've seen from him at times, with the chemistry between him and Michael Woodworth make a beautiful duo there up the middle. So I'm hopefully he'll clean that up a little bit and feel more comfortable. I think this was like his first full year of actually playing shortstop. I think they jumped him around a couple times the first year he played between like third and second. So I think it's just a kind of learning curve on that aspect of it. Going to Lester Madden, who was signed by the Oakland Athletics as a free agent in 2018. He was signed by the RailCats on August 20th of 2022. He played in his first game the same day. He went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. His stats looked like this: 14 games played, 51 at bats, scored 4 runs, 8 hits, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, 1 walk, 18 strikeouts, had a batting average of 157, on base percentage of 173, slugging 216, and OPS of 389. Now, it kind of came into the year late, so I can't put a lot of stock into what the kind of player he is. But I didn't put down his fielding. He had that really one that still plays in my head to this day, and I don't think it'll ever go away, is when he was in left field and the ball was hit straight to him, and that ball just I don't know what happened. He just flat out missed it, dropped it. It still today blows my mind. But like I said, I don't know what kind of player he fully is, because he only had a handful of games, like 14 games, and it was towards the end of the year. It was the dog days. It was just almost, the season was almost over at this point. So I'm not gonna put all my chips in saying he's a terrible player, or put my chips into, he could be very good, and he just had a rough time, and that happens with everyone coming in a new team, just trying to collect. Some people come out of the gates, and some people don't. So with the full season, I wonder how it's going to kind of roll around. And Yisan Medina, like I said, I'm going to screw his name up until I hear it again. Right-handed pitcher, was signed by St. Louis in 2012. He was signed by the RailCats last season on June 23rd. Played in his first game and helped the RailCats in an 8-2 win over Milwaukee. He came in a no-save opportunity. He pitched it in the 9th. He walked 2, struck out 1. His season looked like this. He played in 26 games, all relief appearances. He went 1-2 with an ERA of 5.06, 4 saves, 32 innings pitched, gave up 32 hits, 20 runs, 18 which were earned, 4 home runs, 25 walks, and struck out 21. He had a whip of 1.781 hits per 9 of 9, home runs 1.1, walks per 9 of 7, strikeouts per 9 of 5.9. Like I said, kind of another one of those smaller sample size, nothing too crazy. He kind of came in and held the fort down when he needed to, a couple bad games here and there. It's gonna happen. Going down to Aaron Phillips, he was drafted by the San Francisco Giants, I almost said 49ers, in the 9th round in 2017. He's entering his 3rd year with the RailCats. Only played 2 games in 2021 with the RailCats. But looking at all of his games together, 38 games played, started in 3 of them. He had a record of 4-4. His ERA of 3.62. Runs against per 9 were 4.44. Pitched in 77 innings, had 3 saves, gave up 66 hits, 38 runs, 31 which were earned, 7 home runs, 40 walks, 58 strikeouts. He had a whip of 1.377. Hits per 9 of 7.7, home runs per 9.8, walks per 9 4.7, and strikeouts per 9 6.8. I think he was also hurt a little bit, so he hasn't really had that full opportunity yet. So I'm hopefully, looking at his ERA and being more of a reliever kind of role, he's been very solid for the RailCats. Another person that I'm kind of he not necessarily has the best quite numbers, but being a relief pitching and only playing in 9 games, it kind of inflated the numbers. I'm kind of excited to see Jared Price back. He was signed by the RailCats on July 7th. He played his first game on July 6th. See what I'm talking about there? The timeline doesn't match up. But anyways, pitched against Lake Country, 1 inning, walked 1, struck out 2. He played in 9 games, all in relief appearances. His ERA was 12.27. Runs against was 17.18. He had 1 save. Pitched 71 innings, gave up 13 hits, 14 runs, 10 earned, 2 home runs, 5 walks, 11 strikeouts. His whip was 2.455. Hits per 9 were 2.5. Home runs per 9, 2.6. Walks per 9, 6.1. Strikeouts per 9, 13.5. When you just look at, if you're just looking at the per 9 portion of it, the hits are lower. Relief pitcher, which kind of inflates a little bit. If he was starting pitcher, you would probably see him in the 1-ish. Home runs per 9 inflated, just because you only played in 7.1 innings, so he didn't really get to play much with the RailCats when he was in the lineup. I think he might have got hurt. I don't quite remember why he didn't really play a lot, but I'm excited to see him come back. Then right-handed pitcher Rayson Santos signed with the New York Mets as a free agent in 2018, signed with the RailCats on August 17th. He played in his first game August 1st. I probably said July 17th. I meant July 17th, but I didn't. August 1st, where he pitched 1 inning on 1 walk and struck out 1. He played in 9 games, all relief appearances, pitched in 8.1 innings, ERA of 3.24. Runs against per 9 were 3.24. Gave up 7 hits, 3 runs, all earned. Gave up 2 home runs. Walked 9, struck out 7. He had a whip of 1.92. Hits per 9, 7.6. Home runs per 9, 2.2. Walks per 9, 9.7. Strikeouts 7.2. Like I said, you can look at all these stats on Baseball Reference, so if I'm kind of boring you a little bit with the numbers, I'll kind of get down into another podcast where I kind of look at everyone and kind of what do I expect or what I'm seeing, and maybe if there's any holes in the roster. So I'll have a more breakdown. I just kind of want to get with people that signed and what their kind of numbers look like, that kind of stuff. So, if the numbers are going to bore you, then I completely understand that, but I just kind of want to have that breakdown. So if you don't want to look through all stats, you can kind of hear me and kind of get my little reactions. But I'll have more reactions in next week's podcast. I'm going to have it next week's podcast. Don't worry. John Sheeks, going into his 3rd year with the RailCats, his stats from the past 2 years look kind of like this. 27 games. He started in all of them as 6-14 record. ERA of 4.86. Runs per 9 of 5.4. He pitched in 139 innings, gave up 109 hits, 84 runs, 75 which were earned, 15 home runs, 39 walks, while striking out 112. He has a whip of 1.424, hits per 9 of 10.3, home runs per 9 of 1, walks per 9 2.5, strikeouts per 9 7.3. John Cheeks he's in that upper echelons of pitching in the American Association. So I think the RailCats are really going to rely on him and Harrison Francis, maybe a little bit of Aaron Phillips. I think that'll probably be in that room, and obviously Chris Irwin. If Adam Heidenfeller doesn't re-sign back, I think Aaron Phillips will fill that other slot. I think right now you're probably looking, just looking at like the 5 normal. You're probably looking, as I see it. I would probably put John Cheeks, Harrison Francis, Chris Irwin, and then Aaron Phillips. I may look back on that and have another different hot take, because I might look at the stats again and kind of give that out. Kind of what I'm expecting to see how the season's going to play out. So going into Mr. Reliable, I'm calling him Mr. Reliable because he only missed one game last year, and that is Michael Woodworth. He is obviously going his third year. He was drafted by the Oakland Athletics in the 29th round in 2019. He played in 130 games, 52 at-bats, 97 runs, 162 hits, 26 doubles, 10 triples, 7 home runs, 60 RBIs, 31 stolen bases, only got caught 7 times. He walked 39 times while striking out 75. He has a batting average of .311, best batting average on the team. I think Engelman is still on there, but he had the best batting average. Even if someone does I forget where LG Castillo was, but just throughout the entire season, Michael Wood was just Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistent. He was there. If the name catches on, I call dibs on it. If it doesn't, then okay, I get it. But I think Mr. Reliable is a good one for him. He had a slugging percentage of .375, OPS of 440, or slugging of 440, OPS of 814. His fielding percentage is 993 out of 476 chances with 9 errors. And then getting into the last 2 people that were signed, Victor Nova, infielder, signed by the San Diego Padres in 2017. Then signed on July 1st, where he played against the Kansas City Monarchs, where he went 1-4, stole a base. His season kind of went like this. Played in 51 games, had 196 at-bats, scored 39 runs, 53 hits, 10 doubles, 2 triples, 8 home runs, 39 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, and got caught stealing 6 times and walked 26 times and struck out 20 times. His batting average was .307. His on-base percentage was .353, slugging of 464, OPS of 817. Fielding was .984 out of 126 chances with 5 errors. I think the biggest knock on Victor Nova is his arm at third. I think that's the biggest knock that I have with him at third is his arm. That can improve though. And then Julio Vivas, right-handed pitcher, was signed by the Pittsburgh Pirates in 2011, and then he was actually acquired from Lake Erie, which is the Frontier League, for the RailCats, which was to finish a trade where the RailCats sent Jose Mercado to Lake Erie back in March. He played in his first game against Winnipeg. He pitched in, and this was like later on the. I just missed that. It was later on the year when they brought that trade in through. He pitched in 2 innings, walked 3, struck out 2 the rest of the year. He played in 18 games, ERA of 3.27, runs against per 9 of 3.27. Pitched in 22 innings, gave up 20 hits, 8 runs, all which were earned, gave up 1 home run, walked 11, struck out 19. He had a whip of 1.409, hits per 9 of 8.2, home runs per 9 of 0.4, walks per 9 4.5, strikeouts per 9 7.8. There we go. Got through all of it in less than an hour. Somehow I did, even at the moment at less than 45 minutes. But like I said, next week's podcast, I'm going to kind of look through the past bit of what Lamar Rogers had set up as far as fielding wise, batting order, this and that, and maybe a little bit of starting rotation. And then I'm going to kind of give, who I think would slot in where with just the players that we have right now. Obviously, if something changes, if we sign Jesus Mariaga or Adam Heidenfelder, if they're signed anytime before probably Friday or Thursday night, that on Friday I will have the pod. no matter what, I'll probably have either one. But if they sign earlier in the week, I'll have like an emergency special podcast of just them. It may be only 5-10 minutes long, but the Friday will be my heavy-ended version of what I think the RailCats, how they're going to shape up, what they're going to look like, what the batting order is going to look like, kind of people that they're going to be putting in that role, relief closer, that kind of stuff. So if you have an idea or what you think how the lineups, send it over. I would love to see what everyone has, as far as who they might throw in the lineup, where they might throw them in the lineup or on the field, or whatever the case may be. I can piggyback off a couple ideas, and then next week we can have a discussion about it, or whatever the case may be. And then the week after that, after I'm done with that Friday's podcast, if you disagree with something, I would just love to kind of have that kind of discussion a little bit. So yeah, be sure to keep an eye out on the this week in the American Association. Be sure to follow it on Twitter. I think it's at TWITA Baseball on Twitter. So be sure to follow them. Kind of keep up on everyone around the league, minor league reporting as well. But then whenever they post that podcast episode up, I'll be sure to be listening to it. I'll be sure to share it so everyone can get a hold of that as well. So yeah, and I'm gonna try to start using a little bit of my more personal Twitter account as well. So you can obviously follow the show on Facebook. Be sure Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, which obviously where all the podcasts go on YouTube. So if you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Follow the Facebook page. Follow the Twitter page. That's at RailCats Talk. And then my personal page is K Svetich. It's just KSVETICH. So if you want to follow that, I retweet like different stuff. That's more my personal one, where it's just not linked to the podcast, if that makes sense. But yeah, be sure to follow that. Like I said, if you like the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I like having these conversations as well. So I want you to enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're listening to this, watching this, and go Cats.